The red sky of Mars was quiet. Dust moved slowly across the dry ground. Reen, a human in his late 30s, walked alone, pushing a small cart filled with metal scraps. He wore a dusty coat, old boots, and a helmet with a cracked visor. He was used to being alone. Ever since the mining station closed, most people left. But Reen stayed behind. He liked the silence. He was returning from the East Ridge, where he often searched for old mining parts. As he passed through a dry valley, something strange caught his eye. Dark shape had crashed into the rocks nearby. Smoke rose into the air. Reen stopped. "What is that?" He whispered to himself. He left his cart and carefully walked toward the smoke. The ground was broken, and something had clearly fallen from the sky. When he got closer, he saw a small silver pod like a tiny ship. It had strange marks on the side, glowing in blue light. Reen had seen many things on Mars, but this was new. He stepped closer. The pod hissed, letting out a soft breath of steam. One side was broken, and inside something moved. Reen leaned in and looked. Lying inside the pod was a child, not human. The skin was light gray with soft blue lines running across the arms and face. The eyes were closed. The head had no hair, only smooth skin and small pointed ears. The child looked weak, barely breathing. Ren's heart beat faster. He looked around. No one else was there. He didn't know much about aliens. He knew they existed. Traders from other stars came sometimes, but never to places like this. And this child? This was different. It's alone, injured and small, more than 5 or 6 years old in size. Reen hesitated. He wasn't supposed to touch alien tech. Colony laws were clear. He couldn't leave the child here. He bent down and gently picked up the child. It was warm and light. The child didn't wake up, but its hand moved slightly and held onto Reen's coat. "It's okay," Reen said softly. "I've got you." He wrapped the child in his old blanket and placed him in the cart. Then he turned back and walked quickly toward home. Reen's home was an old cargo dome, half buried in the sand. He had lived there for years. It was quiet, cold, and simple. Inside he had a small bed, a heater, a table, and shelves full of tools. He placed the child on the bed and checked for wounds. There were small cuts and bruises, but nothing serious. Reen cleaned the child's face and arms with warm water. The child didn't wake up for a while. Reen sat beside him, thinking, what if someone came looking? What if the colony leaders found out? But he shook his head. "You're just a kid," he said. "You didn't ask for this." At night, the wind howled outside, but inside the dome, it was quiet. Reen stayed awake, watching the child sleep. At one point, the child whispered something in a soft, unknown language. Reen didn't understand. He sighed. What have I gotten myself into? The next morning, the child woke up. Reen was fixing a broken heater when he heard a soft sound. He turned and saw the child sitting up on the bed. Looking around with wide silver eyes, Reen slowly walked over. "Hey," he said gently. The child looked scared. His small hands grabbed the edge of the blanket tightly. His eyes darted to the door, then to Reen. "It's okay," Reen said, holding up his hands. "You're safe here." The child tilted his head, confused. Reen pointed to himself. Reen waited, then pointed at the child. The child looked unsure, then whispered something like, "Talu." "Talu," Reen repeated with a small smile. "Okay, that's your name?" The child nodded slowly. Reen brought him some warm water and a soft energy bar made from Martian grain. Talu sniffed the food, then ate slowly. He was clearly hungry. After breakfast, Talu followed Reen around the dome, watching him fix wires and sort tools. He didn't speak much, but he seemed curious. Reen pointed to a tool. "This is a wrench." Talu blinked. Reen handed it to him. "Wrench." Talu looked at it, then repeated softly, "Wrench." Ren smiled. Close enough. Days passed, and Talu grew stronger. He was quiet, but smart. He learned fast. Reen was surprised when Talu fixed a broken light on his own. Using tools he had only seen once, He didn't ask questions. Not yet. At night, Reen sometimes caught Talu looking out the small window at the stars. There was sadness in his eyes. One evening, Reen placed a pillow on the floor next to the heater. "This is yours," he said. "Talu." Looked at it, then at Reen. Slowly, he walked over and sat down. Then, to Reen's surprise, he crawled back up to the bed and curled beside him like a scared cat. Reen didn't move. "You miss home, don't you?" he whispered. "Tell you didn't." Answer, but Reen could see the answer in his eyes. Something about Talu felt different. Not just alien, there was something ... important. But Reen didn't know what. And maybe, deep down, he was afraid to find out. All he knew was this: the child had no one else. And Reen couldn't turn his back. Not now, not ever. Days turned into weeks. Life inside the cargo dome became different, warmer somehow. Reen was no longer alone. Talu, the alien child, was quiet but full of wonder. Every day he followed Reen, watched what he did, and copied it. In the mornings, Reen worked on repairs, heaters, drones, old power tools. The machines were old, dusty, and barely working. But with Talu around, something strange began to happen. One morning, Reen was fixing a broken generator. "Don't touch the wires," he warned. "They're sharp." But before he could stop him, Talu reached out and gently touched a cracked power cell. A soft blue light ran along his fingers. The spark stopped. The machine hummed. Reen blinked. "What did you do?" Talu looked up. Table quotes. "Fix." Topolite. Right. Reen looked at the generator. It was working perfectly. He hadn't even finished rewiring it. "Okay," Reen said slowly. "You're full of surprises?" Talu smiled. Reen set up a small whiteboard on the wall and began teaching Talu human words. He pointed chair. Talu repeated CHA table. Table. Water. Water. Reen nodded. Good. Talu was a fast learner. In a few days, he could say short sentences. "I like warm," he said once, holding his hands over the heater. Reen laughed. "Yeah, me too." They ate meals together. Simple food like grain bars, dried fruit, and warm soup made from Martian roots. Talu liked the soup. He always finished it first and licked the spoon carefully. At night, Reen told him stories, not fancy ones. Just simple things about Earth, old cities, animals, and oceans. Talu listened with wide eyes. "No water here," he once said. Reen nodded. "Not like Earth, no." "I want to see sky water," Talu said quietly. "You mean rain?" Talu smiled. Rain. One evening, Reen found Talu sitting near the window, looking out at the stars. "What are you thinking about?" Reen asked. Talu didn't speak for a moment. Then he said, "My place." "Far." Reen sat beside him. "Where is it?" Talu pointed. "Upward, there." Reen followed his finger. The stars blinked gently. It was impossible to know where Talu came from. There were thousands of systems out there. "My mother." She said, "Go, hide, stay." Talu said slowly. "She closed pod, I cry." Reen felt something heavy in his chest. "She saved you." Talu nodded. "I miss her." Reen placed a hand on his shoulder. "I'm sure she misses you too." Talu looked up. "You're like my family now?" Reen hesitated. He had never thought of it that way. But the truth was there. He smiled. "Yeah, I guess I am." But things weren't all peaceful. A few days later, Reen heard a noise outside, a deep humming sound. He stepped out of the dome and looked. UPA patrol ship was flying above the colony, sleek gray and sharp like a blade. It wasn't human. It belonged to the Union of Allied Species, the group that watched over trade and law. In this part of the galaxy, Reen's heart sank. They never came here. The next morning, 2 officers arrived in the colony square. One of them, a tall creature, with green armor and long fingers, introduced himself as Officer Varn. His voice was calm but cold. "We are searching for a lost escape pod," he said to the colony leader. A small craft carrying unknown passengers. Reen stood in the back of the group, silent. Talu was hiding inside the dome under the floor panel. The officers scanned the area with hand devices. Reen kept his face still, his body calm. Mila. The local mechanic and Reen's old friend came close and whispered, "What's going on?" Later, Reen said, "I need a favor." That night, Reen went to Mila's workshop. Talu was with him, wearing an old hat and scarf to hide his face. Milo raised an eyebrow. "Now that's not a human kid. He crashed near my place," Reen said. "He's alone. Couldn't leave him." Milo looked at Talu. He was quiet, standing close to Reen. "You know how dangerous this is?" she asked. Reen nodded. "I do, but look at him." Talu looked up at her, blinking. Mila sighed. "All right," she said. "I have an old signal scrambler. Might hide his energy signature, at least for now." "Thanks," Reen said. "I didn't do it for you," she replied. "I did it for the kid." Back at the dome, Reen installed the scrambler. It hummed softly, creating a light bubble of static around the dome. "Will it work?" Talu asked. "Should. Keep them from finding you," Reen said. That night, as Reen slept, he was woken by a strange blue light. He opened his eyes and saw Talu standing near the broken satellite receiver. His hands were glowing again. The receiver, which hadn't worked in years, suddenly came to life. A hologram appeared, bright and tall. It showed a grand hall with golden walls, tall windows, and a throne in the center. Voices spoke in a strange language. Then a deep voice said something that made Reen sit up straight. "Royal signature, confirmed." The image faded. Reen stared at Talu. What was that? Talu looked tired. He sat down slowly. "My home, are you? Someone important?" Talu didn't answer. The look in his eyes said enough. The next morning, Reen sat outside the dome, staring at the red hills. Talu came and sat beside him. "You're not just a lost kid," Reen said softly. "Are you?" Talu looked down. "No. Why didn't you tell me?" "I was scared," he whispered. "If I tell, maybe I go away." Reen looked at him. "I'm not sending you away." Talu smiled. A real warm smile. Reen placed a hand on his shoulder. "But I think we're in more trouble than I thought." The stars above Mars were calm. But something had changed. Far beyond, across space, machines were waking up. Silent ships were turning. A signal had gone out, and the air of a forgotten empire was no longer hidden. The red skies of Mars were no longer quiet. A second patrol ship hovered above the colony, bigger than before. Its lights scanned the ground like giant eyes. The sound of its engines made the walls of Reen's dome shake. Inside, Reen packed supplies quickly. Food, tools, blankets, everything he could carry. Talu watched him quietly. "Are we going?" the child asked. "Not yet," Reen said. "But we need to be ready." Talu held the small metal figure Reen had carved for him days ago. "There. Looking for me?" Reen nodded. "I think so." Talu lowered his eyes. "Because of the signal?" "Maybe. Or maybe they were always looking," Reen said. "We just gave them a trail." That afternoon, Reen visited Mila's workshop again. The door slid open with a slow hiss. "You see the new ship?" she asked, without looking up. "I saw it," Reen said. "They're getting serious." "Need something more powerful than a scrambler." Mila turned to face him. "You planning to run?" "Not yet, but I need options." She led him to the back of her shop. Behind a tarp was an old rover big, rusted but strong, used in the northern mines, she said. "Heavy wheels, good engine. You'll need to fix the nav system, though." Reen nodded. "I'll take it." Mila crossed her arms. "He's not just a kid, is he?" Reen looked away. "I don't need the full story," she said. "But if you're helping someone important, you'll need more than wheels." She handed him a small case. "Old jammer. It's not perfect, but it'll mess." With scanners for a while, Reen took it. "Thanks. Be careful," she said. "The Union doesn't send ships for nothing." Back at the dome, Reen installed the jammer on the roof. Talu helped by holding tools and checking wires. "You're good at this," Reen said. Talu smiled. "I watched you," Reen laughed. "You watch everything?" That night, Talu asked, "Why do you help me?" Reen paused. because you needed it. But others leave. I'm not others, Reen said. And maybe I was waiting for someone too. Talou tilted his head. Waiting? Reen looked at the stars. I've been alone a long time, too long. The next morning the colony woke to tension. 3 Union officers arrived. Led by Officer Varn, they moved through the colony with scanners, asking questions. Checking homes, Reen watched from the shadows. Mila came to him quickly. They're asking about energy spikes. It's that signal you triggered, they tracked it. Reen nodded. I figured, you need to go now. Reen grabbed Talou and headed back to the dome. They packed the rest of the supplies into the rover. Talou looked nervous. We're leaving? For now, Reen said, just until they stop watching. But as they loaded the rover, a sudden voice came from behind them. Going somewhere? It was Officer Varn. Reen turned slowly. Talou hid behind him. Varn stepped closer, scanning the area with his device. The machine beeped. He narrowed his eyes. Unregistered. Energy here, Varn said. Old tech. But something more. We run a lot of power tools, Reen replied calmly. Varn looked at Reen. You live alone? Not anymore, Reen said. Varn studied his face. Then his eyes moved to the rover. Mind if I look around? Reen smiled slightly. I do mind. There was silence. Tension filled the air. Then Mila appeared, holding a large power drill. Problem here? She asked. Varn turned. Official business. This is private land, she said. And your scanner is picking up my backup power cell. Varn frowned. His scanner beeped again, louder. But before he could step forward, the jammer on the dome flashed. It sparked and exploded in a small burst of static. Varn raised an eyebrow. That's no normal power cell. Reen grabbed Talou's hand. Run! They jumped into the rover. Reen hit the ignition. The engine roared to life. Ugh. Wheels spun, throwing dust into the air. Varn shouted, Stop them! 2 Union drones lifted into the sky and gave chase. The rover bounced over rocks and sand. Reen drove fast, heading for the canyons beyond the colony. Talou held on tightly. They're behind us. I see them, Reen shouted. One of the drones fired a warning shot. It hit a rock nearby, sending debris flying. Reen pressed a button. The rover released a cloud of smoke and heat, an old mining trick to block sensors. The drones flew through it, but their aim was off. They entered the narrow Martian canyon, where the drones couldn't follow easily. Reen turned sharply, taking a hidden path between tall cliffs. After minutes of rough driving, they reached a wide opening, an old mining station, long abandoned. Reen parked the rover and turned off the engine. Silence. No drones in sight. They were safe. For now, inside the empty station, Reen found an old control room. Dust covered everything, but the walls were strong. He set up a light and unrolled sleeping mats. Talou sat down, still shaking. I'm sorry, Reen said. I didn't want to scare you. Talou looked up. Not scared, just tired. Reen sat beside him. You did good. Talou reached into his pocket and pulled out the small metal figure. I kept this safe. Reen smiled. Good. They sat in silence for a while. Then Talou said, They won't stop, will they? Reen shook his head. No, not now. Talou looked down. I don't want you hurt. Reen placed a hand on his shoulder. You protect each other. Later that night, Talou walked around the old station. His hands brushed against the walls. Then something strange happened. Lights blinked. Soft hum echoed through the metal floor. Reen ran over. What did you do? Talou looked confused. I just touched it. The lights turned blue. A screen appeared on the wall, showing a symbol shaped like a crown made of stars. A robotic voice spoke. Zairi's signature detected. Activation complete. Reen stared. Zairi, Talou whispered. That's my family. Reen stepped back. You're not just part of a family, are you? You're their heir. Talou didn't answer. He didn't need to. The mining station was no longer just an old shelter. Blue lights now glowed softly along the walls. The dust on the screens had vanished as if cleaned by invisible hands. Doors that were locked for years slid open with a smooth hum. Reen stared around in shock. This place was dead for years. What did you do, Talu? Talu stood quietly in the middle of the room, his hands still glowing faintly. It knows me. The voice from the wall returned. Calm, robotic, yet clear. Welcome, Royal Heir. Zaire access confirmed. Station security activated. Reen blinked. Royal Heir, you really are. A prince. Talu looked away. Not Prince Heir. Only one now. Reen didn't know what to say. All this time he thought he had saved a lost child. But now it was clear. Tolu had once belonged to something. Great. Something far beyond Mars, tall, walked deeper into the station.
Ow.
The doors opened automatically as he passed. Reen followed. Inside the main control room, giant screens lit up. Maps appeared, galaxies, systems, star routes, and blinking signals. 1. Map showed Mars. Around it, many dots glowed red. What are those? Reen asked. Talu touched the screen. Red dot pulsed. Union ships, he said softly. Reen's face darkened. They're still looking for you. Talu nodded. They feel me. The signal. My blood. Reen looked at the glowing interface. Can we stop them? Talu placed both hands on the screen. Symbols formed beneath his fingers. A smaller voice came from the wall. Defense system ready. Cloak shield active. Tracking blocked. The red dots began to blink slower. Some even disappeared. Reen's eyes widened. Did you just hide us? Talu gave a small smile. Station protects Heir. For the next few hours they explored the station. It was more than just a building. It was part ship, part shelter, and part memory. In one room, Talu found old armor made of silver and black metal. It hummed as he touched it. Belonged to my father, he whispered. In another room, they found food supplies, sealed tight, still fresh after many years. There was also a small garden room, where glowing plants grew under artificial light. Reen picked one. This could feed us for weeks. Talu nodded. They grew it for the crew. Crew! Talu's face grew serious. Long ago, many followed. My family. They were soldiers, pilots, helpers, all gone now. As night came again, Reen cooked a simple meal from the fresh supplies. Warm root stew and dried fruits. Talu ate quietly. After a moment, he asked, Do you miss your family? Reen stirred his food slowly. Yes, I lost them a long time ago. Talu nodded. Me too, Reen smiled gently. Then maybe we're both orphans who found each other. Talu smiled back. Maybe. They sat by the soft light, not saying much, just feeling safe for the first time in days. But peace didn't last long. The next morning, loud alarm rang through the station. Bright red lights flashed above the doors. Reen jumped up. But now? Talu ran to the control panel. Symbols filled the screen. A warning appeared in bold letters. External breach detected. Union scout approaching. Reen cursed under his breath. How did they find us? Talu looked scared. The signal. Maybe it was still too strong. Reen checked the outer camera. A small Union ship was landing on the ridge just above the canyon. 4 figures stepped out, officers in black armor, weapons ready. Reen turned to Talu. We have 2 choices. Hide or stand. Talu's hands shook. I don't want to fight. Reen nodded. Then we make them leave without one. They rushed through the station. Reen grabbed tools, wires, and old energy packs. Talu, you still control the systems, right? Talu nodded. Yes, then listen. We'll scare them. No fighting. Just warnings. Lights, sound. He'd anything to make them think this place is cursed. Talu's eyes lit up with understanding, like ... a ghost. Reen smiled. Exactly. As the Union officers entered the canyon, the station came alive. High above. Speakers crackled with strange alien sounds. The ground near the entrance pulsed with heat. making their scanners go wild. One officer stepped closer, and the door slammed. Shut in front of him. Inside the shadows, red lights flashed like angry eyes. "Unauthorized entry," the voice boomed. "Leave at once. You are not welcome." The officers hesitated. Then smoke vents released thick clouds, hiding the walls. The leader gave a hand signal. "Fall back. We'll report this location. It's protected tech." One by one, the Union scouts retreated to their ship from a high. Camera, Reen, and Talu watched the ship lift off. "They're gone," Reen said with relief. Talu cheered. "We did it." Reen ruffled his hair. "You were brave," Talu smiled. "We scared them good." Later that day, Reen sat in the garden room, fixing an old communicator. Yu sat beside him, playing with a small glowing crystal. "Reen," he said softly, "what happens now?" Reen looked at him. "Now we wait, we hide, and maybe learn more about me," Reen nodded. "About who you really are." Talu looked down. "I'm scared of being the heir." "You don't have to be ready now," Reen said. "But you'll have to be, someday." Talu touched his chest. "Then will you stay with me?" Reen smiled. "As long as I can, kid." That night, the stars above Mars blinked quietly. But across the galaxy, in a far-off corner of space, another signal blinked on. A ship, huge, dark, and silent, received the message. It turned slowly, its engines glowing deep gold. Inside, a figure in a long robe stood before a screen. "He lives," the figure said. "The last Zaire heir is alive." And just like that, the game had changed. Far away from Mars, deep in a dark part of the galaxy, a massive ship floated quietly in space. Its shape was long and sharp, like a sleeping dragon. No sound, no movement, till now. Inside the command room, a figure stood in front of a glowing screen. His face was hidden behind a mask of silver and blue. His long robe shimmered in the dim light. He stared at the screen. A single word blinked. "Zaire signal, detected location." Mars, the figure pressed a button. Another screen opened, showing an old image of a child with glowing marks on his hands, the air. The figure said softly, "After all these years, he lives." He turned to his assistant. "Prepare the fleet. The Empire must rise again." Meanwhile, back on Mars, Rian and Talu were repairing a drone they found deep inside the station. It was an old scout drone, shaped like a ball with tiny wings. It made a soft humming sound when it woke up. Reen smiled. "Still works." Talu watched. With interest, "Can it fly?" "Let's find out." Reen tossed it into the air. The drone floated, spinning around them slowly. Its camera blinked, and it let out a cheerful beep. Talu clapped. "It likes us." Reen laughed. "Maybe it remembers." It came from your people, didn't it?" Talu nodded. "I think this was mine, long ago." He touched the drone gently, and the lights inside it glowed brighter. Suddenly, a small image appeared in the air, a hologram. It showed a group of people in beautiful armor, standing tall beside a large golden throne. In the middle was a woman, with strong eyes and a kind smile. She held a baby in her arms. Tail stared at the image. "That's my mother." Reen looked closely. She looked like a queen. "She was," Talu whispered, "and I was her son." That night, the station's power grew stronger. More systems turned on. Lights stretched through long unused tunnels. Doors opened that had been shut for years. Reen and Talu entered one. New room filled with books, crystals, and strange tools. "This is a knowledge room," Reen said. Talu nodded. "My parents taught me here, before everything changed." Reen walked over to a glowing panel. "Why did your people fall?" Talu looked down. "There was a war. A general betrayed us. He wanted the throne. Was it the man in the silver mask?" Reen asked. Talu's eyes widened. "Yes, his name was Dareth. He was once a protector." Reen shook his head. "Now he's hunting you." Back on the Union base in orbit around Mars, Officer Varn stared at a new report. A strange ship had entered the system. No Union ID, no signal response. No weapons fired, but its size and silence were dangerous. Varn frowned. Unknown vessel. Yes, sir, said the tech beside him. And it's heading for the surface. Where? The tech pointed at the screen near Sector 9, close to the old mines. Varn's eyes narrowed. That's where the boy was last seen. He stood up. Send a message to Central Command. We may have a larger problem. At the same time, Reen and Talu stood on top of the old station, looking at the sky. The red dust winds had settled, and the stars were bright. Talu pointed up. One of those lights. It's not a star. Reen looked. A golden dot was moving. Slowly, that's a ship. Talu closed his eyes. It feels like home, but not safe. Reen placed a hand on his shoulder. Then we prepare. Whatever comes, we face it together. Talu nodded. I don't want to run anymore, Reen smiled, but because I don't think we can. In the following days, Reen and Talu trained together. Talu learned how to control the station's systems with more ease. His hands glowed brighter every time he touched the panels. He could open doors, start machines, and even control small defense drones. Reen taught him how to stay calm, how to use simple tools, and how to think fast under pressure. You're not just a royal, Reen told him one night. You're a survivor, and survivors think ahead. Talu grinned. Like you. Reen laughed. Exactly. On the third night, the golden ship finally entered Mars' atmosphere. It moved slowly, without noise, like a giant shadow. Inside, Dareth stood at the front window. He looked down at the red planet with cold eyes. The air is close, he said. Prepare to land. A group of armored soldiers stood behind him, silent and ready. Dareth raised his hand. We take him alive. The throne must be mine, but the boy will help me unlock it. As the ship descended, the station picked up the energy signal. Talu ran. To Reen, they're here. Reen didn't need to ask who. We knew this would happen, he said. Now we fight smart. Talu nodded. You protect the station. No, Reen said. We protect you. Talu looked confused. But you are the heir. You carry a name, a history, a future. I'm just the man who helped you find it. Talu's eyes filled with tears. You're more than that. You're my family now, Reen placed a hand on his shoulder. Then let's defend our home. As the golden ship landed near the canyon, the station locked its outer gates. Turrets rose from the ground, shields activated. Drones hovered into position. Inside, Talu stood before the control screen, glowing brighter than ever. He spoke clearly with strength in his voice. I am Talu of House Scifi. This is my home. Leave or face the will of the Empire. In space, far beyond, another ancient ship stirred. Hidden for years, it now blinked with light. A signal had reached it. The heir has returned, across the stars. Old allies began to awaken. The golden ship stood like a giant beast on the red soil of Mars. Its sharp wings stretched wide, and glowing lights pulsed along its sides. A soft hum came from its engines, even though it had landed. Inside the ship, Dareth looked at the canyon below. His metal mask reflected the red light, spoke without turning his head. Send the scouts, do not harm the boy, bring him alive. Soldiers stepped forward, and the man with him. Dareth's voice was cold. If he resists, remove him. At the edge of the canyon, the hidden station waited quietly. Inside, Reen checked the outer cameras. For scouts coming down the hill, armored, moving fast. Talu stood beside him, his hands glowing with soft blue light. His face showed no fear this time. I can guide the drones, Talu said. Reen nodded. Good, but stay behind the shields. Let me handle the front. Talu hesitated. I want to help. Reen looked at him. You are helping. You're the reason this place is alive again. That matters more than holding a tool. Talu lowered his eyes, but understood. He went to the control panel and connected his mind to the station's systems. Scouts reached the canyon floor and moved toward the station's main door. Suddenly, the ground under their feet lit up. Blue light rose like mist. The air around them grew heavy. One scout raised his weapon, defensive field active. Then the turrets appeared small, sharp machines that floated from behind rocks. They didn't fire, but they aimed directly. At the scouts, a robotic voice echoed through the canyon. "You are not welcome. Leave now." The lead scout raised his hand to signal retreat, but it was too late. From behind a rock, Reen stepped out. He held a tool-turned weapon in one hand, a small energy shield in the other. "This is your only warning," he called. "Go back to your commander. This place is protected." The scout stared at him. One stepped forward. "You're not here." "For you? Hand over the air?" Reen didn't move. "You'll have to walk through me first." Suddenly, the drones above flashed bright. Their wings spread wider, creating a wall of blue energy behind Reen. The scouts slowly backed away. "We'll return," one said. Reen watched them go, then turned back toward the station. "They'll be back with more," were said. Inside, Talu disconnected from the control panel. His face was pale. "I saw it," he said. "I saw into Dareth's ship." Reen turned to him. "What did you see?" Talu took a deep breath. "He's not just here for me. He wants the station. It holds something powerful." Reen raised an eyebrow. "What kind of power?" Talu walked over to the wall and placed his hand on it. Part of the wall shifted, and a hidden room opened. Inside was a crystal, floating in the air. It was bright white, glowing with energy. Talu whispered. "It's called the core flame. My people used it to power cities, ships, even planets. It connects to everything in the Empire." Reen stared in awe, and Dareth wants it.
Talu
Nodded. "With the core flame, he can rule everything." Reen stepped back. "Then we can't let him take it." That night, Reen and Talu sat in the garden room. The glowing plants swayed gently as if they could sense the tension in the air. Talu spoke first. "I don't feel like a ruler." Reen smiled. "It's probably why you'd be a good one." Talu looked down. "Do you think my people are still out there?" Reen nodded. "I do. The Empire may have fallen, but someone always survives, just like you." Talu's eyes lit up. "Then I must protect this. Not just for me, for all of them."
Hey.
Placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. "That's the heart of a true leader." The next morning, the golden ship moved again. It rose slightly, then dropped something large onto the canyon floor. A giant machine, shaped like a beetle, opened its legs and dug into the ground. Reen checked the cameras. It's a burrower. They're going to try to dig into the station from below. Talu activated the ground sensors. It can block them with seismic walls, but not for long. Reen jumped up. "Then let's slow them down." Together they activated systems the station hadn't used in years: ground shock pulses, energy traps, even fake tunnels. The machine outside made slow progress. But every few meters, it hit another trap. Inside his ship, Dareth frowned. "They're using ancient defense patterns, but they cannot hold forever." He turned to his soldiers. "Prepare the descent. We take the station by force." Day everything changed. A new signal appeared on the station's sensors. Reen looked at the screen. "Another ship?" Talu narrowed his eyes. "It's not from the Union. It's not Dareth's." No. The signal was old but clear. "This is Commander Lin of the Scifi Watch. We received the call of the air. We are coming." Talu gasped. "Heard me. My people are still alive." Reen smiled. "Looks like we're not alone after all." In space, just outside Mars orbit, 3 silver ships blinked into view. Their markings glowed with the crest of House Scifi. Inside the lead, Ship Commander Lin stood proudly. "The heir is on Mars. We must reach him before Dareth does." Back at the station, Reen and Talu stood side by side. "Help is coming, Reen," said. Talu nodded. "Then we hold the line until they get here." The two of them walked into the command room. Screens flashed, systems hummed, and every part of the station seemed to awaken, ready for the final stand. Talu stood in the center, his hands glowing brighter than ever. "I am not just a lost child anymore," he said. "I am the heir of the Scifi Empire, and I will protect what is mine." The sun rose slowly over the red hills of Mars. Dust clouds floated across the sky, glowing golden in the morning light in the deep canyon. The battle was near. Inside the old station, Reen and Talu prepared for what was coming. Dareth's forces were close now. Its golden ship had moved closer in the night, and large machines were digging into the ground. But something had changed. Talu was no longer afraid. His eyes were calm. His hands glowed like never before. The station answered him with light, energy, and life. Reen checked the screens. Dareth's army will break through soon. Talu stood still. Then we won't wait for them to come in. Reen turned to him. What do you mean? Talu pointed to the main panel. This station can rise. Reen's eyes widened. Rise? Into the air? Talu nodded. It was built as a sky fortress. It has hidden thrusters. If we power them, we can lift the whole station above the canyon. Reen looked surprised. That's bold. Talu smiled slightly. I think it's time. We show them who we are. Talu placed his hands on the central console. The walls lit up. The floor hummed beneath them. Old engines deep below the station started to wake up. Vents opened. Lights flickered from red to blue. Reen held onto a handle as the station shook dust. And rocks fell from the ceiling, but the building held strong. Outside, Dareth's soldiers stepped back as the canyon floor cracked. The old station slowly rose, lifted by bright blue engines hidden in the ground. It hovered above the canyon like a silent guardian. Dareth stepped out from his ship and looked up. So the boy has awakened the sky fortress. He raised his hand, prepared the storm cannons. High above, the 3 silver ships of the Sci-Fi watch moved into Mars orbit. Commander Lin stood at the window of the lead ship. She spoke calmly. We see the station rising. The air is alive. The soldier beside her asked, should we engage the enemy? Commander Lin shook her head. Not yet. We wait for the air's signal. In the station, Reen and Talu moved to the observation deck. From there, they could see the golden ship and the army below. The enemy was ready to strike. We have only one chance, Reen said. Talu nodded. Then we must give them something to fear. He walked to the main console again and activated the station's shield dome. A clear blue bubble spread around the flying station, protecting it like armor. Then he turned toward the sky and sent a signal along. Strong pulse of light that reached beyond Mars. Commander Lin received the signal. The air calls, she said. Now we move. The silver ships activated their shields and entered the planet's atmosphere. Back at the canyon, Dareth's storm cannons fired. Yellow beams of energy struck the station's shield again and again. Inside, the walls shook, but they held strong. Talu's hands glowed brighter. We need more power. Reen ran to the lower levels and reconnected old power lines. Sparks flew. Engines roared louder. The station's shield glowed brighter. Then something new happened. The core. Flame, the glowing crystal hidden inside the station, rose into the air. It pulsed with light and sent waves of energy through the sky. The sky above turned white for a moment, and then the silver ships appeared shining like stars, dropping through the clouds. They moved quickly, smoothly. Dareth's soldiers looked up in shock. What is that? From the lead ship, Commander Lin's voice echoed through every channel. This is the Sci-Fi watch. The air has returned. Stand down or be removed. Dareth's eyes burned behind his mask. Fire everything. But his army was confused. Some soldiers stopped moving. Some dropped their weapons. They remembered the Sci-Fi crest. They remembered peace, honor, and truth. Many had once served the old empire. Now, they no longer wished to fight against it. Commander Lin's ships released small pods that landed near the station. From them came tall warriors in silver armor. Their faces calm but ready. They joined Reen and Talu on the platform. Commander Lin stepped forward and bowed slightly. My prince, we thought you were lost. Talu looked at her with wide eyes. I was, but Reen found me. Then we owe him more than thanks. Reen smiled. I just gave him food and a bed. He did the rest. Talu stepped forward, stood tall, and raised his voice. I am Talu of House Scifi. I do not seek war, but I will protect what is rightfully ours. To those who stand with truth, stand with me. The soldiers from the Scifi watch raised their weapons in respect. Behind them, even some of Dareth's own men dropped their arms. But Dareth was not finished. He activated the last weapon hidden in his golden shippa. Large beam powered by dark energy, he aimed it at the core flame. If I cannot have the throne, he shouted, then no one will. The weapon charged. Talu closed his eyes, placed both hands on the ground, and focused. The core flame answered. It sent out a wave of light that wrapped around the beam like a shield. The energy turned golden, then disappeared into the sky. Dareth's weapon exploded in his ship. A massive flash followed when the light faded. Dareth was gone. Silence, then cheering. The station glowed with calm light. The core flame floated peacefully. The silver ships hovered above like stars watching over them. Reen stood beside Talu, watching the sky. You did it, he said. Talu turned to him. We did it. Commander Lin stepped forward. My prince? Talu looked out at the land, the sky, and the people who had gathered. He took a deep breath. We rebuild. We return. Not as rulers, but as guardians of peace. Reen smiled. That sounds like a good start. Talu looked up at the stars. For the first time in a long time, he felt like he was home. The end.